November 22nd. First item on the agenda, Kay, could you please call roll?
Mr. Carmichael.
Here.
Mrs. Saniuk. Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Knutson. Mr. Preister.
Here.
Mrs. Blood.
Present.
Item number 2, this meeting will be conducted according to the Open Meetings Act, posted in the entry to the council chambers. Item 3, additional items. 3A, employee years of recognition for September. Ms. Jackson?
We have a short list this month, and we have one employee here. We only have 2 in September, and the one that's able to attend today is Stephen Wazinski with the Communications Division of the Fire Department. This is his 10-year anniversary with the City of Bellevue. Come forward, Steve. And I do want to make mention of the other gentleman who is not here, which is Steve Hudson with the Parks Building Maintenance Division, and this is his 35-year anniversary, so for Steve. He's on vacation.
B, City Administrator's Report. Comments must be limited to the items on the current City Administrator's Report. Are there any comments? Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to ask, we've got listed in the Administrator's Report that progress is being made on the strategic plan, and I would just like to ask Dan if either the next meeting or the one after that at the latest, that we get a complete report. Because right now, we are nearing the end of the year, it gets here very rapidly, and I would just like to know the status of all of the activities in a more comprehensive and complete fashion from each of the people who have the various assignments as they're listed.
Actually, we're planning on doing that. The intent would be to have that prepared to include in the second meeting in October with the administrator report, similar to what we did last time. That way you get it in advance, and if you have some questions at the following council meeting, we always have an opportunity to go over those.
Okay, hopefully it'll be a little more comprehensive than the 6-month one was.
We'll review it and try to put as much detail in it as we can.
Okay, I think it will also help to save us time when we do our strategic planning meeting this upcoming time, because last time I think we spent an inordinate amount of time just reviewing what we had done. So if we do it in advance, I think it'll also save us that time.
I would concur. Since we normally do a status report to have available at that retreat, well, we obviously have a lot of the footwork done in advance. So yeah, we shouldn't have to spend as much time doing a re-review of it, and maybe just, you might say, hitting the key points or overview of it at that point.
Right. One other thing on it, I had asked if we could do that meeting in early December, and would still like to be able to do that after the elections, and I don't know how that's progressing.
We had looked at that because we have a lot of people who take off in December with holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we're right in the middle of an audit. That's why we didn't do it last year. The other thing, I may be looking at having surgery in December. Not that I want to do that either, but I may not have choice. So those are a couple of things we looked at. Probably the first part might have been easier. Mine might not be as flexible. So
We're only talking one day, and there's never a day when everybody's going to fit into a schedule anyway. So I'll leave it to you and hope for the best.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Mr. Cook.
And I just got more so 2 comments. Under labor negotiations,
Yes.
it sounds like you're getting very busy.
Yeah, we are.
The only, the only thing that I would ask is that, I know we've had some movement on it recently, but the Bellevue Professional Management Association, I think, has been a union that has not had any type of a contract since probably 2009.
Expired in 9 or 10,
Okay.
before I came.
And I would just ask that, you know, now we're gonna stack a lot here. We need to get that resolved. We need to get that brought before the council. I don't know if it can be done before this council, any type of a package, or else if we have to wait for a new council, I should say a couple of new members to the council, but I think that is one that needs to be given a priority because of the time and length. There's a lot of issues here as far as pay and benefits and stuff like that, that we have got, I believe, a group of people, I don't think it's a real big group, 15 people, I believe, that I think that we need to try to make that a priority and get this thing resolved.
I think we're very close. The only thing we're working on, really, the key point is the economics. And I know Finance Director Severson is feverishly working on getting that put together. You know, like I said, yeah, we're negotiating with 6 unions right now, so we definitely have our hands full. There are various stages. I think we're making reasonably good progress. You know, some of them are a little more complicated because it depends on the area of the city that we're dealing with, whether it be police, fire, you know, skilled, semi-skilled labor. But with BPMA, really, it's the language issues, other than the economics, that's where we're at this point. So, you know, I would like, you know, the sooner the better for us as well.
I just don't want to see others put on top.
No, I can
preference.
assure you right now that
We're
the
set.
scheduling of the various union negotiations, there's no priority or preference given to any union. It really is a matter of where we're at, you know, in the respective negotiations. Some, you know, move quicker than others. Depends on obviously what the union's requests are, what our position is. But with the BPMA at this point, unless I'm incorrect, Rich is here and Karen, but I'm almost certain that we're just at this point pulling together the economic package of it, and that's the last element to get to the finish line, and the sooner the better.
Well, and part of my concern is when I read some of these, and I'm not going to be specific, but to dates, where some of these unions, you're meeting on the September 19th, and then again on the 23rd. Another union, you're meeting on the 9th, the 12th, and the 30th.
Right.
Schedule. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot more aggressive than what we've seen with.
Well, and you gotta remember, every union's proposal is different than the other. So it really depends on the key issues, you know, what are the various provisions, what are they asking for? You know, and so working not only through just the normal contract provisions that are common among collective bargaining units, but each union, because of what they do, you know, they have a different menu. So some may sometimes move quicker just because it's less complicated,
Sure.
as you know, and some, there's a lot more complications. So we're trying to be responsive. In fact, you know, we have, it used to be the Bellevue Employees Association that decertified and recertified. Now it's Civilian Employees of Bellevue. So that really, where we reached an agreement with them last time first, they're kind of now, they're on the tail end only because they just recently were recognized by the CIR.
Sure.
So we're trying to fit all of them in, trying to accommodate all of them. Sometimes, you know, in negotiations you meet, you would reach what's called a tentative agreement on certain items. Other items, they have to go back and review. We have to review, then we exchange proposals, we review each other's proposals, and we meet again. So it can sometimes get lengthy on that. But again, I think Carol asked this at one time, Councilmember Blood, ideally, we'd like to get them all negotiated as soon as possible because it's a lot of work for administration with 6 unions. Even when we had 4, it's a lot of work. So sooner the better.
Well, and part of my concern is, when we talk about the economic side of it, we had the comparability study completed. We've had that in our hands for a couple months. So when it does come to pay and benefits, I think we have a very good measure from that comparability study. So I think issues like that could be at least maybe better addressed with that study in your hand to get this thing finalized.
It's definitely helped us a lot. It's something 3 years ago we didn't have. Now we do, so that gives us basically good information to work from.
Okay. And my second one is on the employee policy manual.
Correct.
I see in your report, you've You've greatly extended the timelines that we had some emails over. I'm glad to see it. I believe it will give the council and probably more important, and I'm not putting anybody down, but with the new council coming on for surely 2 members and possibly a 3rd member, will get involved with this, be able to review it, and eventually then vote on it too. So I'm glad to see that that did occur, and that the council should have plenty of time to prepare and give input to Karen Jackson.
Good, and I appreciate your suggestions. Those are some things that allowed us to take into consideration. I think we're at good points, and our intent was to try to come up with a realignment of that process to be able to accomplish the things you've identified.
Are there any other questions, comments? See none, I'll move on to item number 4, review and discussion without actions of the items on the agenda of the regular council meeting this evening at 6 p.m. Begin with item number 3, approval of the minutes and committee reports. 3A, approval of agenda. 3B, approval of consent agenda. C, approval of minutes of the September 8th, 2014 regular and pre-council meeting of the City Council. 3D, acknowledge receipt of the minutes of the August 28th, 2014 meeting of the Planning Commission. 4, approval of claims. 5, special presentation, proclamation for September 29th, 2014 as Tyler J. Smith Day. 6, liquor license. 6A, St. Matthew's Catholic Community. 7, ordinance for adoption, 3rd reading, none. 8, ordinance for public hearing, 2nd reading. 8A, ordinance number 3780. B, ordinance number 3781. Item number 9, ordinance for introduction, 1st reading, none. Item 10, public hearing on matters other than ordinances. 10A, application for conditional use permit. 10B, application for a conditional use permit, which is different from A. This is a family child care home. Item 11, resolutions, none. 12, current business. 12A, appointment of acting city clerk. B, approve operation response for automatic aid for service. Mr. Cook.
Mary, could you sort of explain this to me? And I apologize, I didn't get hold of you earlier. I was out of town this weekend. It refers to a zone and an engine 4. I know that we probably have interlocal agreements with surrounding fire departments where we're probably responding to their cities and they're responding to our cities. But would you just explain what we're doing here and the reason behind it?
Yeah, we did, it was approximately 2 or 3 years ago, we entered into agreement with Papillion and Omaha to do automatic responses where we would let the computer-aided dispatch, the computer pick out by zone who was the fastest responding apparatus depending on the call into that particular zone. So we have a number of zones, and we've reviewed that automatic aid agreement. And we do go into Omaha and to Papillion, and we didn't want it to be disproportional. So after we've had this review, we found out that in some areas it was a little bit disproportional. So we removed some of those 2nd and 3rd alarms from Omaha, from having Omaha come into Bellevue. But we found some other locations where Papillion would actually benefit us in a couple of different zones. And so we've added and taken away accordingly to make it more proportionate so that no one is bearing an undue burden in any city right now. So it works out really well for us. It's just a cooperative effort that gives the best service collaboratively.
Whereabouts is the zone 312B? Can you just say northwest, central, whereabouts at?
That's in the District 3 area, so it'd be up in that area. They're numbered in accordance with the different fire stations. So the District 3 area, it would probably, I think the one we're referring to is the northwest.
At times
But I can bring you a zone map too if you'd like.
I wouldn't mind taking a peek at it. I just wanted some clarification. At times, I have people say, why do I see fire trucks?
From different, yeah.
And by explaining this, and for people to understand, is that what the departments are doing, and I'm not speaking for you, tell me
No.
if I'm wrong, but you try to look at who might be able to make the best response time, the best response depending on the circumstances, and through cooperation and agreements, we get things like this presented to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
And in doing so, we are trying to ensure that no one is doing, that it's an equal share, so that we're not getting more or getting less than any other city. But in the areas that we can share that without any added cost to that city, we're doing that to get the best possible response times for the people.
and seeing a fire, I'm gonna ask you a question sort of off. Seeing a Papillion fire truck coming down 36th Street is very common because their districts will come down to that area.
Absolutely, yes. That's the rural fire protection districts which they serve. They have contracts for, so,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for Chief Guido or 12B? Thank you, Chief. 12C, approval of application for waiver for the hunting regulations. D, accept low bid for demolition. Mr. Berlowitz or Mr. Cook?
I got a general question. On D, 12D through the end, I'm not quite sure why they are put under consent. Some of them are sort of high dollar. One's $531, one's $466, or $531,000. I thought, I just throw this out. To me, if it involves a dollar amount and for us expending money, why would we not make a separate motion on each of those?
Kay DeMass would like to answer that question.
The city code says that the clerk can put them under consent agenda with the direction of the city administrator.
Okay.
He was not here, and when we
Okay.
had our agenda meeting, we discussed each one individually. And it doesn't have to do with whether it's a contract or not, or the dollar amount. In this case, we felt like because he was recommending the low bid, that was the deciding factor for putting it on the consent agenda. And at any time, before you approve the consent agenda, like tonight, without any questions, the mayor or a city council member can say, I would like to pull all of those, or just one or two, or whatever. We don't vote on it or anything. It just, when we get to that,
Okay. I may make that motion tonight. I definitely will make the motion on 12J.
Mr. Berlowitz?
Yeah, and Councilmember Cook, also on some items,
Okay,
where they maybe have come, for instance, like on the street department equipment, the reason why that would have been on there is that along, I think, was it the last meeting, Chris, when you approved the changes on the budget document, and there were some items that were added for capital improvement. For instance, there was the equipment for the police department for the training. And along with that, there were also these items, for instance, for purchase of equipment under street department that was being approved for the capital improvement plan. So that's why at that point, since it's been initially provided to you, and not that the bid was approved, but the basis for this approval tonight was covered at a prior meeting, at times we'll put that on consent, because it's already been up before you. Again, as city attorney said, and city clerk said, it doesn't prevent you from pulling it out. We just didn't feel that it was something that had not been before you, and we thought, it might be something that can be approved on consent. But then again, if you have concern, but we don't go on dollar amount. A lot of times it really depends what's maybe preceded it in terms of before it gets to you. And
okay.
yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Are there any other questions on 12D? 12E, approve CDBG sub-receipt contract with Bellevue Housing Authority Foundation. 12F, accept low bid of Swain Construction in the amount of $36,610. G, accept low bid of Best Cut Lawn Care in the amount of $22,586. H, approval to replace street department equipment in the amount of $531,900. $520. I, approval of the property casualty insurance renewal package with the annual premium of $466,505. And J, approve the amendment of the real estate purchase agreement and joint development agreement for the Twin Creek Conference Center. Do you have any questions on that one, Mr. Cook, since you want to pull that?
I'm probably gonna request D through K, or JK, yeah, K, I guess is the amended, to be removed from the consent at tonight's meeting.
Okay. Any other concerns, questions? See none, that takes us back to the pre-council agenda. Item number 5, executive session. Councilwoman Blood.
You know, we do have a cheat sheet if you ever want it. Okay. For the protection of the public interest and for the protection of needless injury, well, I don't need to read that part today. I move to go into executive session to discuss real estate negotiations for city properties located at 2216 through 2218 Franklin Street and 210 through 204 West Mission Avenue.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cook. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
Oh, that's weird. Why did they not vote? I turned the thing on. There we go. All voted yes. All present voted yes.
Thank you. It is now 1:53. We'll go into executive session where our discussion will be restricted to as stated by Councilwoman Blood. Good evening and welcome to the Bellevue City Council meeting for Monday, September the 22nd, 2014. I would like you to all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd also like to mention this is Kay DeMass' last council meeting, so we'll take some time to acknowledge her there. And we will follow with the invocation by Pastor Steve Holliday from Life Spring Church, 13904 South 36. And I think I have some scouts that will lead me, or a scout to lead me in the Pledge of Allegiance. State your name and your scout number.
I am Daniel Rice of Troop 474, Bellevue, Nebraska, and I am here to observe a city council meeting so that I may work on my city, communications merit badge. May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You could please remain standing for the invocation.
Thank you. I just want to say we so much appreciate your service. If you ever wonder if people are thinking about you or praying for you, the answer is yes. So let's pray. Father, thank you for this privilege it is to just bow and acknowledge you. God, we believe our country was founded on a lot of folks who sought your blessing and who acknowledged you in their daily life. And God, we trust that you want to provide wisdom, that you're not so removed, but you do care what goes on in city governments and in our country. God, we thank you for our mayor. We pray that you'd bless her much and give her wisdom. We pray the same thing for our city administrator and our city attorney and planning and public works and our city council. Thank you for them and their devoted service. Thank you for our city clerk. Thank you for Kay and her years and years and years of devoted service. Thank you for the great job that she has done, Lord. We thank you for our chief of police, and we pray for him and all of those that he represents who are serving this community and facing danger. Thank you for them. Father, we pray your wisdom upon all of the matters that will be discussed in this meeting. And Lord, we again just stop to acknowledge you and ask you for that wisdom. And we ask this in the Savior's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Holliday. Before we call this meeting to order, I would like to take some time to acknowledge our city clerk's 12 years here with the city of Bellevue. The Bellevue Leader did a wonderful article that some of you have read that was on the front page of the paper. Kay, it's been a pleasure to serve the 4 years with you and the years before I served as mayor. It's always been a pleasure. And I have something I'd like to present to you, but we'll do that in just a few minutes. I believe the Council President would like to say a few words also.
Kay has been our city clerk for 12 and a half years, and prior to coming here, she was at Nebraska City as the clerk for 19 years. That makes 31 and a half years of city clerking. And during that time, she has acquired a great deal of knowledge and experience and knows the history behind what we have done here at Bellevue, and that will be impossible to replace. So thank you, Kay, for all you've done for this city. I think Pastor Holdaway said it very nicely, devoted service. Thank you for the late council nights and the late Wednesday nights putting the council packet together. And for me personally, thank you for all the help that you've given me during my term here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there others who'd like to say a few words? Mr. Cook.
Okay, I'd like to just to tell you thanks. I've gotten to know you about 2 years ago when I came on the council, and every time I've ever talked to you, you've had nothing but integrity, wonderful morals and values. There's never been a doubt in a conversation that I've ever had with you when I walked away that I knew exactly the information you provided was right on, and every time. I have had an opportunity, I saw your husband here earlier, he must have left.
And daughter.
Oh.
So welcome to your husband and your daughter.
I was fortunate to meet him too one day. You're two great people. I hope the best. Enjoy retirement, and thanks for everything you've done to the city, for the city.
Thank you.
Councilman Blood.
You know, I'm actually going to quote one of my favorite people, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Smart man. I hope you're proud of yourself for the times you've said yes when all it meant was extra work for you and was seemingly helpful only to someone else. I think that really puts your job in a nutshell. I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for everybody here in Bellevue, Nebraska.
Thank you.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor.
You have got to be kidding.
Wow. Talk about go out with a bang.
Are you kidding me?
We proceed outside.
We're sorry for the interruption of the meeting, but we want to take this time to tell a very special person that we care, we are thankful for her service, and that for all of those people that may have heard derogatory remarks about public servants and people who work for government, Kay is the epitome of the dedicated, long-serving, and sometimes long-suffering, rarely appreciated from the outside or the inside in many cases. So she is the example of what government and good government employees are about. She is the role model for that. And we have many others, far more than ever get recognized, and we who serve on the councils don't always say that we appreciate them and thank you. But Kay, thank you. We appreciate you, we appreciate your service, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Kay, on behalf of the city council, the administration, the citizens and employees of the city of Bellevue, I present you with your clock and thank you for your time and your service.
Oh, thank you very much. That's pretty.
Do you have a few words you'd like to say? You're never short on words, so please.
Yeah, I always give long explanations. You ask me a question about how to do what time it is, and I tell you how to make the clock. I will not miss the arguing and the bickering and some wild phone calls that we sometimes get, but I will most miss the people that I work with, the dedicated city employees of the city of Bellevue. They work behind the scenes, but they make things happen, and they rarely get a lot of attention or a lot of praise for the work they do, and yet they do very, very hard work and in a dedicated manner. And so next time you see a city employee, you might just want to stop and say, thanks for your service. Sure, they're getting a paycheck, but more than that, they're probably working very, very hard to make sure that the job is done correctly. I will miss my friends here I'm looking forward to sleeping past 6 a.m., which is what I always answer when people say, what are you going to do when you retire? And probably I'll get to sleep till 6:10 or so. But anyway, I appreciate the thoughts. I appreciate the kind words. And I'm going to miss you.
Thanks for your service.
It works. It's the right time.
Okay, ready to regroup. Item number 2, Kate, could you please call roll for the last time?
Mr. Carmichael.
Here.
Mrs. Haniuk.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Knutson. Mr. Preister.
Here.
Mrs. Blood.
Present.
Thank you. Item 2A, this meeting will be conducted according to the Open Meetings Act, posting the entry to the council chambers. Item 3, approval of minutes and advisory committee reports. 3A, approval of agenda. Councilwoman Sanyuk.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Blood. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to remove item
Oh,
12.
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet, when we get to
Yeah?
B.
Okay.
Yep. On the agenda or the consent agenda?
No, you're going to pull it on the consent.
You have to pull it first.
Before the consent. But,
I'd like to remove item 12J from the consent.
Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to remove 12D from consent.
You? So we have a second, and we have a motion and a second. We have 2 motions.
It's just a removal.
There's no reason for a motion and a vote on this. It's just a removal, takes care of
yeah,
it.
they don't.
Okay, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. 3B, approval of consent agenda. Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda
Second.
Second by
As
as
Mr.
amended.
As amended. Second by Mr. Carmichael. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 3C is under consent. Item 3D, consent. Before we go any further, we have a committee report. Councilwoman Blood.
Yes, Mayor. Some of the vendors from the last day of the Bellevue Farmers Market wrote some personal notes to the council. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'd like to read 1 or 2 of them just to let you guys know how much people appreciate the market. The first one is from 2 volunteers that come for Green Bellevue and actually shop at the market, and they said that they spent quite a few Saturday mornings at the Bellevue Market, both as Green Bellevue volunteers and as enthusiastic shoppers, and it's a wonderful opportunity for people to come shop, socialize, and experience the beauty of the park and support local farmers and craftspeople. We look forward to another successful year of the market. Catherine Ewing and Alice Bachman, who are Green Bellevue volunteers. But a lot of our vendors also wrote personal notes. The Garden of Ellen, who's one of our most popular vendors and has been coming for 3 or 4 years, she said, "We love the people in Bellevue. Having the market in the park is great. We'll be back in 2015. Thanks, Jim and Ellen Shank." And then we had some newbies, the Rups, better known as the Beef Jerky Man. "We've never been involved in a farmer's market, and the market was a great experience. Thank you so much for the opportunity and exposure. Don and Patty Rupp." And there's other notes here. You can tell each one wrote a personal note. It's not fancy, but they passed it around at the last market. And they wanted to let you know that the 2015 market will be kicked off the second weekend in May of 2015. hopefully again in Washington Park. We didn't tear the grass up too much this year. But it was a fun time. The summer went quickly. There was a lot of people who made friends and acquaintances, not just the people from Bellevue, but people from other communities, and our farmers really got acquainted with our community, and it's something to really be proud of. Those vendors keep coming back year after year because we've created such a nice environment for them. It's not in the middle of a hot parking lot. We don't charge through the nose for our vendors. And the ones that come back year after year do well because they have built those relationships. So thank you to the people that were on the council when we voted to have the farmers market in Bellevue. And for the others who have come on afterwards, thank you for continuing to support the market. So, and it's no longer run by the city, it's run by volunteers. So we're going to keep it going.
Thank you, Councilwoman Blood. Item number 4, approval of claims, is under consent. Item number 5, special presentation, proclamation, September 29th, 2014, is Tyler J. Smith Day. Thank you. Thank you. Whereas synthetic drugs such as K2 are a mix of herbs, shredded plant material, and man-made chemicals with mind-altering effects, psychosis, manic rage, extreme paranoia, seizures, and even death. The chemicals used in K2 and other synthetic drugs have a high potential for abuse and no medical benefits. The Drug Enforcement Administration has made the 5 active chemicals most frequently found in K2 illegal. Whereas on September 29th, 2012, Tyler J. Smith was introduced to legal and synthetic marijuana by someone he trusted, which eventually ended up causing his death quickly, without warning. Synthetic drugs and K2 is the second most popular illegal drug used by high school. Easy access and the misconception that it is natural and safe have contributed to these rates of use. Whereas in 2012, the Tyler J. Smith Purple Project was established in memory of Tyler and is dedicated to spreading awareness about the dangers of synthetic drugs and to prevent the use and abuse of synthetic drugs by educating the community and empowering young people to make educated choices and testifying to get laws passed. Whereas on May 29, 2013, the governor of Nebraska signed LB 298, Tyler's Law, into effect, increasing the scope of chemicals which are found to be illegal and are often used in synthetic marijuana production. Now, therefore, to honor the memory of Tyler J. Smith and continue his legacy of making the world a better place, I, Rita Sanders, Mayor for the City of Bellevue, do hereby proclaim September 29th, 2014, Tyler J. Smith Day and month of September Synthetic Drug Awareness.
Just to say a few words, this is what the Purple Project stands for, and with all of our community working together, law enforcement, school administration, our mayor, the city of Bellevue has done an excellent job of getting rid of synthetic drugs, but there's always a problem. So that's what Tyler J. Smith stands for, and I'm just really proud of him today, that he is making a difference in the world that he wanted to make a difference in. So thank you very much for this proclamation.
You're welcome. Let's get a picture. We'll stand in for the podium. Do you have everybody say something? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Shuchek. Item number 6, liquor license. 6A, St. Matthew's Catholic Community, application for a special designated liquor license to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits at a fundraiser on October 24th, 2014, from 5 p.m. until 12 a.m. at 12210 South 36th Street in Bellevue. Is there someone here? Thank you. Welcome. If you could state your name and sign in, please.
I'm Scott Eversole, and I'm here representing the St. Matthew community.
Thank you.
And this license will be for our annual Cardinal event. It's this year's themed Casino Royale, and it will be on the, as you said, the October 24th, and it will be a one-time annual event that we hope to repeat at the school. Now that we had it at other locations, but now it's going to be come back to the school.
Okay. I'll now open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Please do so at this time. I see no one. I'll close the public hearing. Councilman Blood?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this special application for this application for a special designated liquor license to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits at a fundraiser on October 24th, 2014, from 5 p.m. until 12 a.m. at 12210 South 36th Street in Bellevue, specifically for the St. Matthew Catholic community.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cook. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item number 7, none. 8, ordinance for public hearing, second reading. 8A, ordinance number 3780. Kate, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3780, an ordinance to amend section 7-3, ordinance number 3704, the subdivision ordinance relating to street lighting, to repeal such section as heretofore existing and to provide an effective date of the ordinance.
Thank you. I'll now open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please do so at this time.
Mayor, at the last council meeting when the first reading of this ordinance was presented, several of the council members had questions about the street lighting in Bellevue. We do have 2 representatives from OPBD here tonight who can answer questions from the council members.
You could please, those from OPPD, if you could please come forward at this time. You could go ahead, state your name for the record and your business.
I am Bert Adams with OPPD, a utilities coordinator.
I'm Steve Fanslaw, Manager, Consumer Sales and Service, OPPD.
Here to answer any questions you have about street lighting.
Thank you. Mr. Cook.
I got a few. Thank you for coming. I think what we're trying to do here is trying to figure out maybe ways of saving money and maybe looking at some alternatives as far as the lighting and the pole size and stuff. And I do have a whole bunch of questions here. And part of my concern is what is the true purpose of street lighting? Is it to, highlight street corners in the middle of the night? Is it to allow me to walk, at midnight to where I'm always under a light some way for my safety? Or what is the main goal of putting street lights out? I know there's a lot of obvious answers for safety and stuff, but what is sort of the true gut of why we would go into a neighborhood and put in street lights?
The main purpose of those is simply to light the street. That's it. There is some backlight that does light the sidewalk, but the main purpose is the street.
Is it, it's hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Is it so that in darkness that I can walk safely if I'm going down the street? I mean, I imagine that would be part of it.
Well, there's not, to be honest with you, there's not a set standard.
Okay.
It's all something IAS recommends, a certain amount of light. So whatever people feel most comfortable with is what we'll install or what the city request will install, but it's really up to the
We have sort of discussed, and I think it went to the planning commission where I think we were, now Chris, I may be wrong, 150 feet, and then we were looking at maybe another city that was doing 240 feet.
Right.
I know there's a lot of variables here, curves and hills and the dynamics of a road, but what typically do you see in the communities around, say, the metropolitan area, as far as what are they using for distance and what are some of their guidelines that they would use where they would say, we need a pole here, versus maybe we don't need one, farther down the road?
Well, we typically design for 0.9-foot candles. We've been doing that historically for years, which is 150-foot spacing.
I can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry about that. I'll try and pick up.
There you go.
Okay, I'll speak right into it. We've typically designed for 0.9-foot candles historically, which is 150-foot spacing. The other cities have made some changes recently, whereas we will send them the layout for this lighting. They can change anything they want. They can move, they can increase the spacing, reduce the spacing, whatever they want, then we'll just install it at whatever the customer requests.
Okay.
Other cities actually ask for a specific foot candle for a street, which I'll actually design for a specific foot candle, and then we'll put the lights in at that, for those spacing.
What about the pole? Do we have options with OPPD as far as the length of a pole and different lighting that we can put into, or on a pole, the different a sodium light versus a LED light, or?
As far as lights, all we have are, main lights we have are high pressure sodium, the kind of the yellowish light. We have some metal halides, but those are mainly for commercial areas. The pole heights, for residential, we have a 25-foot pole.
And if we'd want to vary off of that, I would imagine there would be.
It'd be a special order item. We currently don't have. Right.
Okay. What if you get into LED lighting? Do you install those? Do you replace those, or how does that?
We've been looking at those a little bit for the last 3 or 4 years. The cost of the LEDs right now are just too high for us to consider them because our rates are so low. We looked at a couple about 2 years ago, and the rate would actually go up a little bit if we got LEDs, and we can't do that just yet.
I got a lot of questions. I mean, what it seems to me is that we're getting. How does the city, when we get a bill from you, do you know that there's X thousand lights in the city?
Yeah.
And so when we annex a neighborhood and there's 30 more lights, you say, okay, they already got 3,180. Now we're going to add 30 more lights to that, and that's how we get our bill.
Correct. Every month I'll get a report if a light gets removed or installed. I'll take that off or add that to the city's bill. And if there's an annexation package, like there was, I think it was 2008, that instantly added 508 lights to the city's bill.
So we pay a monthly rate per light.
Per light, correct.
And what if a light is no longer working? I mean, does that, you don't have a screen, excuse me, you don't have a screen that says, oops, we got 10 light bulbs burned out in the city of Bellevue. That has to be pretty much self-report by a citizen.
Right, we count on the city and the residents to report those for us.
And then is there a cost for that replacement to the city, or is that just something in the monthly charge?
That's all in part of the rate.
So today, on that pole, if you replace 5 lights tomorrow morning, that's just, you replace them, they're now working, there's not a bill sent to the city for your time and effort, or that bulb that was replaced?
For the majority of lights, there are about 40 lights that were state installed, which are considered customer owned, which if we maintain those are, we charge free maintenance on those lights. But you have very few of those in the city of Bellevue.
How do we get, and I know I'm going off of what our true intent here is, but if we want a street light turned off, I've noticed that in some of our intersections, we've got new traffic signals, and on top of those traffic signals there are light poles. And then 20 feet away is another light pole. What if we would contact you and say, we want, these 10 light poles shut down and removed, or at least shut down where we're not paying for them? How does that process play?
We could do a couple different ways. We can actually completely remove the light at the request of Public Works. So just give me a call and say, we want this light removed. If there could be a cost if we have to reroute wires to keep the lights on. But we can also just maybe take the arm off, take the fixture off, leave the pole in place, if you don't mind an extra pole out there. But we have done that before.
But that would be an additional cost to either shut it down and or remove it. Or
There
break
would
it
be
down.
just some labor to remove it, yep.
Is there any, and I imagine it would be a cost, is there some type of a sensor that could be put on lights so that at, I'm going to make this up, but 2 a.m. they go off for 3 or 4 hours where there's just nobody out and about? I mean, to me at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock when it gets dark, we probably still have a lot of walkers, a lot of vehicular traffic. but at 2, 3, 4 o'clock, you know, that's probably a very small group of people or vehicles moving. Is there any way that somehow through sensors, and I imagine it'd be a cost, but are any communities testing with maybe a sensor where it would automatically shut off and maybe save on the cost of that light burning through the whole nighttime?
No communities I'm aware of right now, but I know the technology is available. There is a photocell you can put on top of the light and set it to go off 6 hours after it turns on. So
But you have not installed or
we have not. We
done
haven't.
any of those?
I haven't got pricing on them yet. No, sir.
Could you give me an idea how many light poles the city of Bellevue has that we're paying for
Yeah.
currently?
We have the exact number. 4,790.
And so we're probably paying a rate of what per pole?
It's going to vary from if it's a wood pole, a steel pole, underground wire, and overhead wiring. The rates are a little different for each.
Okay.
It's on average around $16 per light per month. 16.
The lights that are like in our city parks, do you install those? They're seem to be the same type of pole, like say into a parking lot, or I'm not saying to light up a baseball field, but
Right.
like a parking lot. Do you install those, Chris?
We have. I'd have to
Okay.
know which one
So
specifically,
in
but
that 4,790, that could be
that could include those, yep.
included in parks, and that would be the same rate, the same setup as far as replacement.
Correct.
I'm done. I mean, I'm going to keep on going through my notes if anybody else has questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you. Steve, I'd like you to address the current height of our poles, I believe, is 25 feet around the city, and the wattage is 100 on the bulbs.
That's correct, Don. Steve Fanslaw, OPPD. That's correct, Don. The majority of your poles are 25 foot tall with 100 watt high pressure sodium fixture on it.
And in Lincoln, they have chosen to go with a shorter pole, a 20-foot pole, and then they went to just a 70-watt bulb. So they're putting the energy into the light at a lower area and using less energy to do that. And they seem to be, I think it's LES that handles Lincoln's, and so I'm assuming they're buying their poles in bulk at that size. What's preventing OPPD from doing the same thing, checking with where they purchase them? I'm sure it's a local developer, and using them here at that height.
Well, our standard method is the 25 foot. So for years, history, OPPD has used the 25 foot tall pole. We haven't investigated any shorter poles, Don, to be honest with you. We've never had that request. All the communities that we serve in the 13 counties, we all use the standard 25 foot pole, which is an OPPD standard. Right. If LES has a different standard and it's working for them, we don't know about that. We don't investigate that. We can look into that request. We would have to get that request probably from a public works director or from folks like yourself to do something like that. I'm not saying we won't look into something like that. We can. We just haven't. Our standard's always been 25 foot.
So you've just got a process that's been standardized, and you haven't varied from it because you haven't been asked to.
Correct.
Okay, that's helpful. LEDs are being used. Some cities use some federal money to get grants to convert over. They are more expensive to purchase initially, but they use half the electricity approximately, and so there is a payback period to pay that initial cost by the cost savings every month on the electric bill. What's OPPD doing other than monitoring the LED lights?
Well, right now the fixture price that we're discovering is between the $400 and $800 range, and our current fixture prices are about $90. So you can do that math there. The LED fixture price is still too high for to offer that as a standard method of lighting, and keeping it at the current streetlight rate that we're at right now. Our rate would probably be increased because of that fixture cost. So we are watching it. Robert watches it constantly until that fixture price drops, and it's beneficial to all of our ratepayers. We just haven't got on board with the LED lighting yet.
Okay, but you, would be open to that. You're seeing a roughly $300 to $500 price differential upfront.
Correct. And that would be, that would be a driver for the rate.
Sure.
Obviously, the rate would probably increase because of that material cost.
Because of your cost, you would just factor that out over time rather than charging it directly up front to the city?
Well, if the fixture price would drop where it would be compatible with the $90 to $100 fixture that we have now, we'd definitely look into it. LED lighting is here. It's going to happen. But in the best interest of all of our ratepayers, we're still watching that fixture price. It's not economical for us to go out and get that fixture yet and do that for the 40,000 or 4,000 streetlights that you guys have, or the 100,000 streetlights that we have district-wide.
Replacing the current ones, but going into the new ones and the new developments is something to start phasing in that could be a possibility.
Correct. Could be.
Okay. And I originally suggested that we leave some of the streetlights out when they burn out so that we would pay less, but I'm thinking now that's not the case. We don't have a meter that has all 4,000 of those lights charged into one meter, and so even if they burn out, we're still paying for the electricity.
That's correct, until we get it fixed, until we get it repaired. So yeah, they are on a street light rate. They're not on a meter running rate.
Right.
So it'd be just a standard street light rate that we've developed. Our street lights are not metered, so you're correct. If that light's out, then based on our contractual agreement with you to get it repaired in a timely manner, it's still being billed.
And right now, we're paying $1 million a year just for streetlights, no other lighting. And we're trying, as Councilman Cook says, to get that cost down and to think to the future. I just coincidentally got an OPPD advertisement today in my email, and it says, we're encouraging conservation, we're encouraging, and it's for tips on how you can save energy. And I know OPPD, and commendably, is committed to encouraging less energy consumption and using more renewables. So I'm glad for that. We need your help to get us to doing that. And streetlights at $1 million a year, and it's only going to go up, is a big chunk of what our costs are. So any other suggestions that you can give us to get us there, I'm certainly open to.
Well, addressing the streetlight topic in and of itself, the spacing is a good way to start, but once again, OPPD takes the complete direction from the city, as we do all city communities, on how and where and how many streetlights to put in. So to maybe help with some of those costs, to keep them from increasing, it would be the best place to start would be to maybe not request so many streetlights to be installed on new subdivisions and things like that.
And that's one of the components that I suggested and that is in this language is the spacing of 250 feet, which still seems pretty close, but in some areas they're much, much closer. Other areas, there's just no real consistency that we've seen. So 250 is the standard in Lincoln, and it seems to work there. But other communities, I know in Phoenix, you probably go 600 to 700 feet before you get to a street light. So the standard doesn't seem to be consistent. And this still seems to be pretty close and pretty minimal to me. I don't know if you have any sense of what a good distance is. And when you have curves, you always want them at street corners. Too risky, too many chances for accidents. That's where you want the light. But in between those corners, how much is too much? How much can we afford? And what's a good standard to set?
Well, like Robert described, we use an IESNA, which is the Illuminating Engineers Society of North America standard of 0.9 foot candles. That's just an industry standard that we've adopted. Before we install any light, we submit a street light exhibit to the Public Works Director, and they look at the layout, they look at the spacing, things like that with our suggested 0.9 foot candles. That's just a suggestion. It's an industry standard where we can lay the light out in a good spacing manner using property lines and things like that to reach that 0.9. But it's once again, it's up to the direction of the city. If we say 0.9, 10 lights makes 0.9 on this street, but you guys would only rather see 7 lights. That's completely at your direction.
And that standard is a pretty conservative one, so you're getting real good light with
Correct.
that standard. So
Correct.
you could cut that back a little bit and still be okay with lighting.
That'd be at your direction.
Right,
Yep,
right,
yep.
I understand.
Yep.
But, and I think, yeah, those are all my questions. Thank you,
Okay.
Steve, Robert.
Mr. Cook?
I know that OPPD cuts a lot of branches around lines, but does not cut branches when they're obstructing streetlights. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And that's probably one of the issues that we have in the older parts of Bellevue is that these poles are 25 feet, and after 40, 50 years, and we got these trees, you know, the obstruction of the branches does not let the light go out as far as it should. And last summer, I had a call from a lady that lives in south of Mission, concerned about the lighting. The street lighting was not enough in front of her house, and she was literally the second house from the corner. And to me, you know, you get down to the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth house, you know, it was completely dark. And that's sort of the reason why I asked that question earlier. What is the true intent of the lighting? But I think in older parts of Bellevue, we just have them on street corners, and then we get to the newer parts of town, and they're probably longer streets, or not so much a crisscross type pattern, but that we're just seeing so many more light poles, and we would try to get that reduced. But I guess what I want to ask is that, is there any possible way that you could maybe check into and give us some type of a cost that if we wanted to lower our poles to 20 feet, what it would cost? Is there any chance of maybe getting a cost estimate from OPPD as far as, I don't know if you have access to them, or if it would be a completely unique order that the cost would just be prohibited? I'm sort of curious about the sensor on maybe some of the lights in the late evening hours when nobody would, or very little traffic would be out, maybe some of the lights would shut off. I don't know what the cost would be as far as if we would want, you know, several dozen poles maybe removed, that over time with just things being changed, that, you know, the average cost of maybe shutting down a pole would cost the city X dollars, to give us maybe some guidance so that maybe we can help us to see if we would want to make some changes down the road.
Yeah, I can look for any of those things for you.
Okay.
No problem.
Maybe I'll communicate with Chris Shuchuk a little bit, and maybe he can send you something on it. If a street light is reported to OPPD, do you have an estimate on how the average length of time that one of your employees would be out there to replace that bulb?
We strive for a maximum of 7 days.
7
Generally,
days.
we go. Generally, it's been taking us really 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
If it's a bad wire, it could take considerably longer. But if it's underground wire,
Do you have anybody that self-reports that as far as employees? Is there anybody out and about that would maybe self-report that?
we do have some troubleshooters. True that if they're out doing some work and they see a light out, they'll report it.
It's just difficult
Or
when
they'll
you're
fix
driving
it.
down the street and it's nighttime and you realize there's a street light out on Fort Crook Road, and how do I send you an email and describe to where it's at? You know, it's the 12th light south of, you know, I mean, it takes quite a bit to try to give you good information to go out and figure out the light. So I don't know if their poles are numbered or.
Yeah, Steve Fanslaw, OPPD. What we have is also we have the Streetlight Out app, or also Streetlight Out reporting tool on the web. It has a map on there, so if you log on to oppd.com, you can go to our Streetlight Outage reporting page, and it will actually have a map on there. But to echo what Bert was saying, we do have troubleshooters that do night work, and they also note streetlights that are out, but we do rely heavily on the public and the 1-800-OPPD to let us know. But on the website, we just developed that new Streetlight Out page that you can look at. So,
Right. Thank you.
Councilman Blood?
I think I touched down on this a little bit at the last council meeting, but also we have our customer service person, Steve Sawyer.
Steve Sapp.
I had some lights reported out at Everett Park that'd been out for a while. Even though we had several days of rain, within days of reporting it, those lights were fixed. They were out in the mud and the rain fixing them, and they did an excellent job. I even called the supervisor and said what a good job they'd done. So I can tell you that if we go directly to our customer service person, if you get a complaint from a citizen, he'll take care of it, and the follow-through was excellent, and OPPD did a really good job.
Right, I work with Steve also, so you can also contact me in those same cases.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask our Public Works Director, Jeff Roberts, to respond. But earlier you said you could look into the 20-foot poles, which was just asked, if you were requested to do so by a Public Works Director. So I think you're hearing from the council that we're interested, and so I'm going to make the suggestion, and I'll have our Public Works Director confer if he's okay with that. I'm going to ask you to look into what Lincoln is doing and where they're purchasing their 20-foot poles, so we avoid the trees and the tree growth growing in, and we get the light down closer to where we need it, and see what that cost effect is. And maybe you can even join their purchasing, since you're both public utilities, and then in new developments, start using the 20-foot poles. So, Mr. Roberts, is that okay with you if they look into those 20-foot poles?
I'm okay with anything that'll save us money, as long as we also include a cost-benefit ratio in it to know, whether we're going to end up paying more or paying less, but that's going to be the biggest key right there. But I'm okay with them looking into anything that'll help out.
Good, thank you.
We'll go ahead and take that as an official request.
That's what I was hoping you would do. And I just want to say a personal thanks. OPPD, like all utilities, or all generating utilities in Nebraska, are totally public. It's not an investor-owned utility. We're fortunate in Nebraska to have it established that way, and OPPD has been very responsive, good service, reliable service, and doing a great job. So this is in no way any negative disparagement, double word there, but against OPPD. It's a good organization. We appreciate what you do. And your mission of saving money and saving energy is the same one we're trying to do. So let's keep working together and find ways to cut our costs.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from the council? See none? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I still have it open for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on ordinance number 3780, please do so at this time. See none, I'll close the public hearing. The third and final reading will be on Monday, October the 13th. Item 8B, ordinance number 3781. Kay, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3781, an ordinance to amend sections 2.06, 2.10, and 9.06, ordinance number 3619, the Bellevue zoning ordinance, relating to definitions and landscape screening, to repeal such section as heretofore existing, to provide an effective date of the ordinance, and to provide for the publication of the ordinance in pamphlet form.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please do so at this time. See none, I'll close the public hearing. The third and final reading will be Monday, October the 13th. Councilwoman Zanyuk.
I have a question. Mr. Shuchuk or Chief Guido, maybe this falls under your purview, but in the portion of the ordinance where it's been changed, it says to change the residential property line setback from 100 feet to 20 feet. Is that right, Mr. Shuchuk?
Yes.
Okay, I just wondered how we arrived at 20 feet from 100 feet.
Those were just, I'll say, numbers. The 100 feet was just suggested originally by Planning Department based on some research we've done and of other cities, but it wasn't a codified number anywhere as far as the city code or that we're aware of in the fire code. We work with Battalion Chief Stucker on this item. The planning commission changed that to the lower number. They just felt that 100 feet was probably too far. And based on the way the tanks are located, they're above ground, they aren't as hazardous as a regular gas tank, that 20 feet would be sufficient.
And that was okayed by Chief Stucker? Or, Captain, is that what you meant? I'm sorry, by Captain Stucker?
I'm not sure if Tammy actually asked him afterwards, after the planning commission meeting. My understanding though was that he really didn't have a setback to distance that he would require. These tanks are regulated heavily though, so that he didn't seem to be concerned about where they were located. And I can verify before the next meeting as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Chris, real quick, I know we see a lot of propane tanks at gas stations. I would assume that the CNG, CNG tanks, are they significantly bigger? Why are they not underground versus above? And do we know what the size is? I imagine the gas tanks underground are probably several thousand gallons of gas. What do we expect as far as the size of a tank?
My understanding is they can basically be any size, and I didn't know this till we had our hearing. The gas is actually, it comes through the normal gas lines like OPPD or MUD gas, and the tanks you have above ground are basically holding tanks type things. So they are constantly being refilled, so you don't need to have a massive tank there at your gas station, because the gas is feeding it from underground all the time. It's like when you have gas at home.
Okay. So is there a reason why they're above ground and not underground? Imagine the pipes feeding it are all underground.
Yes. I don't know that answer.
My concern is if we're gonna just see huge tanks. Now, evidently from what you're saying, if there's a constant feed, there probably is not needed. But my only concern is down the road, if these are pretty large tanks, I would say substantially larger than a propane tank sitting on the side of a gas station. There might be an issue with, people feeling uncomfortable with it only being maybe 20 feet from the property line in a residential neighborhood. So I'd be sort of curious of why they would not be able to be placed underground. Thank you.
Mr. Carmichael?
Thank you, Mayor. Perry, I guess I'm going to direct this to you. These are propane tanks, correct?
Well, that was my question. I'm not sure what we're talking about.
CNG, the compressed natural gas.
Natural gas.
Chief, could you come to the microphone, please? Thank you.
The proposal is to allow CNG fueling stations. It's not currently addressed in our zoning ordinance. This would allow the CNG fueling at where you have other regular gas stations, other types of fuels.
Okay. What was your question?
Depending on the capacity of the fuel cell, if it's an above-ground storage capacity, certainly there are setbacks in the fire code for 100 pounds or 1,000 pounds, or they're in gallons, or however they're measured. Do you have any input on that as far as what those setbacks would be for the safety issues?
I don't have the answers as far as the code, but if he's talked with Chief Stucker, Chief Stucker would not have, we don't have a problem if it meets the codes. In other words, we don't take a position whether we like this or we don't like that. As far as local jurisdiction, we do make our voice known at the state level in some areas. But if Chief Stucker hasn't specifically said that that's against the restriction or against any code, then I don't anticipate that there is a code that's been violated with what you're proposing.
I'm not saying that it's been violated, but based on the size and the hazard in the tank, I know there are different setbacks that would have caused you to go from 100 to 20 feet like Kathy originally asked. And I thought that might have been the answer to the question.
Oh, I'm not prepared to answer that. I don't have the information.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Chief. The public hearing has been closed. The third and final reading will be on Monday, October the 13th. Item number 9, ordinance for introduction, first reading, none. 10, public hearing on matters other than ordinance. 10A, application for conditional use permit to erect a 90-foot monopole communication tower. Applicant Joe Cole, location 495 West 20th Avenue. I'll go ahead and open for public hearing on this item. Is anyone here to speak on this item? Please come forward. Thank you.
I'm the applicant.
Thank you. Get you to state your name and sign in. That would be great.
Good evening. I'm Joe Coyle, Joey, C-O-Y-L-E, here on behalf of the applicant, SBA Communications Corporation.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Mr. Cook?
Sorry. Sir, has this gone in front of the Bellevue Public School Board as far as their approval of placing it on their land?
Yes.
And they're in agreement, and they voted basically to support this pole there?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be a lease with the school board.
Okay. When I look at the coverage of the, you gave us a map.
Yes.
Has a lot of red on it. And this pole will actually be a couple blocks, about 3 blocks north of Mission Street. And when I look at it with the pole, it sure seems like the only area that is getting increased coverage is way south and a little bit west of Mission Street. And I'm trying to understand why the pole was selected to be there, where it seems like where it's benefiting is south of Mission Street.
I can address that. You do have coverage maps, so there is some increased coverage. The reason that this location was chosen by the Verizon Wireless RF engineer is that this is what they call a capacity site versus a coverage site. The need for this site is to increase your ability to use all of your data functions on your phone, such as email, videos, and things of that nature. So the coverage map, while it was provided and it makes it easy for people to see that the coverage is increasing, the main purpose of this tower is to increase capacity and fix a network need as far as capacity goes.
Was there other sites considered?
No. With capacity sites, that's the other thing. The search area is very small. The search area included, due to the dense residential neighborhood we're in, it just included that school property. So that's where we were dialed in on from the beginning. The ordinance, of course, encourages co-location where possible, and if you will see that was addressed in my application, because there is a monopole that is sitting right behind us at this moment. However, we needed 80 feet, an 80-foot height, and that pole could not provide that height to us.
Okay. A new pole here on this site would not service what you're trying to, the area that you're trying to get better service to? If this pole was replaced, would that be appropriate? Would this be a good location or not?
Potentially. It was just outside of the search area. With these capacity sites, if I bring a candidate that's even, say, 1/10 of a mile away from their desired search area, lots of times they'll tell me that just won't work.
Do you know are there other sites here in Bellevue that you're looking at as far as maybe to place additional poles on Bellevue School property?
Not at this time.
And will this just be one pole?
One monopole.
One pole, okay.
Galvanized steel.
And then at the bottom will be like a 12 by 30 building, which I imagine is full of
Correct.
equipment and stuff?
Correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Cole? Thank you. I still have this open for public hearing. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item, please do so at this time. I see no one else. I'll close the public hearing. Councilwoman Blood.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve this application for conditional use permit to erect a 90-foot monopole communication tower for the applicant Joe Coyle at the location of 495 West 20th Avenue.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Carmichael. Any discussion, questions? See none, please vote.
The vote is 4-1. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 10B, application for a conditional use permit to operate a family care, child care home 2, applicant Deborah Whitmore, location 2309 Pilgrim Drive. Welcome.
I'm Deborah Whitmire, 2309 Pilgrim Drive.
Welcome.
Thank you.
There are a few words you'd like to say about the daycare?
I currently am licensed for Family Child Care Home 1, which we can have 8 children with 2 additional school-age children, which brings us at 10. I'm just requesting a Family Child Care Home 2 to have 12 children. My daughter and I work at this child care together, and we have other people requesting our services. So with the ability to do that in-home, we're requesting that permit from the city.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Thank you. I have this open for public hearing. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item, please do so this time. Thank you. See none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilwoman Blood?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application for conditional use permit to operate a family child care home 2, and for the applicant Deborah Whitmire at 2309 Pilgrim Drive.
Second.
Second by Mr. Preister. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item number 11, resolutions, none. 12, current business. 12A, appointment of acting city clerk effective October 1st, 2014. For the wishes of the council,
You make the appointment.
I make the appointment? Yes. Well, I think as interim, we will be appointing Sabrina to fill the time before the selection process has been completed on the final selection of the new city clerk. So I would like to appoint Sabrina. Sabrina, say your last name again. Omak, for the acting city clerk. Mr. Preister.
Mayor, I think you made an excellent choice. I would support that. Do you need a motion to approve that?
I do.
Then I would move to approve Sabrina Omak as the acting city clerk.
Second.
And a second by Councilwoman Blood. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 12B, approve operational response of automatic, wait, that's under consent. Under consent, 12B is under consent. 12C, also under consent. 12D, accept low bid for demolition of condemned structure located at 6906 and a half South 36th Street. Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I have no problems with the bid process that took place on this, and I think that we probably have a good bid. The concern I have is that we are incorporating the asbestos evaluation and the asbestos abatement potential into those bids, and that is unfairly advantaged some demolition contractors that also have abatement personnel on their staffs. In my profession in Council Bluffs, we as a city go out and do our own evaluation. We hire an evaluation contractor. Typically it's $400 or $500 a house. And that allows all of the demolition contractors who don't have staff to do that an opportunity to bid, and you get a better bid. We get lower bids on our demolition contracts based on the city assuming that responsibility. So I'd like to have the staff evaluate that as a potential to reduce the cost of these demolition bills that we're seeing.
Mr. Preister.
That makes sense. You're able to recoup the 400 or more back on lower bids then because you get more bids, so it does become cost effective and pay back the money you've invested?
That is correct.
That makes sense to me. Any penny we can save.
Would like to include that in the motion?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to accept a low bid for demolition of a condemned structure located at 6906 and a half South 36th Street.
Second.
Second by Councilman Blood. Any discussion? Further discussion? See none? Please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. 12E is under consent, 12F consent, 12G under consent, 12H consent, 12I under consent. 12J, approve an amendment to the real estate purchase agreement and joint development agreement for the Twin Creek Conference Center. Mr. Cook, would you like to?
I make the motion. I'd prefer someone else would.
Okay. I need a motion. What are the wishes of the council? Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the amendment to the real estate purchase agreement and joint development agreement for the Twin Creek Conference Center.
Second.
Second by Ms. Sanyuk. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 4-1. Motion carries.
Thank you. 12K is under consent. 13, public request to be heard. Any member of the public addressing the council shall abide by council policy resolution number 35 regarding the principles of conduct and decorum, which states any statements made during the council meetings by the mayor, members of the city council, city officials, and employees or members of the general public shall not involve personal, impotent, or slanderous attacks on individuals regardless of whether the individual so attacked is an elected official, a city official, or an employee or member of the general public. And City Code Section 2-68 regarding the manners of addressing the council. Copies of the aforementioned rules are posted outside the council chambers. Speakers shall limit their presentation to 5 minutes.
My name is Fred Nemitz, 2505 Kevin Drive, Bellevue. Many things to talk about tonight. First, I'd like to talk about when we want to talk about a specific item before the board here. I seem to having some sort of conflict with the city as to who is keeping tabs on what us people talk about each time that we want to talk about. I've said several emails, and I keep trying to tell the city that I have not talked about mowing the right-of-ways in Bellevue, and they keep telling me I have, and I really hate to be called a liar. And I need to find out what the city council is going to do about this, seeing as how you're supposed to be running the city, and I have the emails. Everybody's been emailed them when I've been emailed back from the city, and I can't repeat how many times it said be Pacific. And I keep wanting to talk about just the mowing. And I will put in another request now to talk about just the money we're spending. And then after I'm done with that, then we're going to talk about just the weed eating that is not being done. Has not been done in 25 weeks. 25 weeks we have not had any weed eating done in Bellevue. The weeds are 5 feet tall down on Fort Cook Boulevard, and everywhere else that was due to the private contractor that we had doing it prior to this. And 25 weeks ago, I sat here and talked about it, that nothing was being done, and still isn't being done. I've kept eye on them over the last 3 days, and just to mow Fort Cook Road with the lasers, it's taken them 3 days. I don't know if anybody knows what windshield time is, but they're getting about 4 hours a day of windshield time. Now, back 25 weeks ago, I said I wanted to know how much money we're spending for all this, because to me, we're wasting a lot of money of what's going on here. And yet today, I couldn't get no answers from the city finance. Said that was up to the personnel that runs that department. And I tell you, after running my business for this many years, of 37 years, I can tell you right down to the tire how much I spend in each department that I have. I've never seen a organization that can't tell me how much they're spending on what we had a contract for last year that we were paying somebody for, other than that, well, we've saved $36,000 so far this year doing it ourselves. You haven't done nothing. You've been doing the mowing. The mowing that's being done down there right now, they've mowed, they've trimmed. That was a week ago. They still haven't got the other part of the tractors down there to mow it. So by the time they get done mowing that, then the part that they trimmed needs to be mowed again. It's pathetic, really pathetic how this operation is being run by the city. It's really pretty pathetic. And I mean, you know, I've sat here and talked to you people and talked, and nobody wants to go look at nothing. Nobody does nothing. All the ditches up and down Fort Cook, 370, no weeding's being done. And then now we got these guys driving these big tractors in these little areas that shouldn't be doing it. And actually, I don't know, I think I probably should turn them in to the arborist, because you can't trim a tree unless you have a license. But these tractors are going down there and the limbs are still broke down there. You can go down there and see it. There's 5 trees where they got so close to the trees that they just break the limbs off. And I'm just trying to figure out, what kind of people do we have working for us that, you know, are destroying our trees for us? The stumps down there are still down there. They're still growing. They look like a flower now. So, you know, and I try to figure out, why would anybody want to come to Bellevue? Why? When it looks like this. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. So I think it's really time that we need to have new people running our city for us. And as being a veteran, I would definitely recommend all of our veterans that we need to find someone new to start running the city and getting something done and knowing where our money's going to. And I would really think that our city council needs to step up and try and get some of this done and try and help us citizens out. We elect you people, and yet I can't get any help of getting up here and talking about this, and I classify that as being bullied by the city. I don't know what more I would say about it, but that is what I call bullying, when you sit there and tell somebody, no, you can't, and I say, I haven't done it. I don't get no help. And then the last time, 25 weeks ago, I thought we weren't talking. This was our time to talk. Nobody else was supposed to be talking. I walk away, and we start talking to Jeff about what he thinks. So do we make our own decisions as how we want to run this place? Or is this speech that you give when you start the night out about being, you know, respectful and all this? I don't understand how this all works. So you guys basically do what you want to do then? Thanks.
Are there others who would like to speak at this time?
Chuck Frederick, 1511 Madison Street. You normally haven't seen me dressed this way. This is a special occasion, and any other special occasions that occur, I will dress accordingly. But this is all about Kay. First of all, everybody said a lot of nice things about her, and it's going to be a great loss for her, for us, for the city. I wish she would stay till at least the end of the year, but I couldn't talk her into that. But she's been remarkable for the city of Bellevue, and somebody that Paul said, and I too have gone there and always got the right answers when I went and talked to her. I think it was a wise choice to make Sabrina the acting city clerk, and I hope that the administration has gotten some input from Kay with all her background and knowledge as to who she feels would be the right person. The other thing too is that there's not that many meetings left, and there's only 2 meetings before the election and 2 afterwards, and that's it as far as for before new people come in here. There could be as many as 6 people up here that would be replaced. And so I think it's only fair to make sure that any decisions that that can be delayed should be delayed. And these are ones like I've talked about before about the contracts for individuals. We should wait till till next year before we do that. We have another position that we open up for a finance person. And what kind of is interesting that you just got through voting the auditing firm in for a 5-year term. So obviously you think very highly of these people to do it for 5 years. I would never do it for 5 years, but you did. But when you did that when she was down here talking, she said that we didn't need another finance person. So you're going against you're getting somebody you contract for 5 years, and then she tells you something that you don't have to do, and now you got a job description out for a finance guy. I would hope that all these would be wait until after the election. See what else I have here. Oh, in regard to the library, I talked about that last week too, or 2 weeks ago, and I don't understand how the Library Committee a number of years ago have recommended where the library should go on 36th Street across from Anderson Grove Church there. And I talked about that, and I said I wasn't sure if that land was for sale that the city owned, and it is owned by the city, and there's a for sale sign for that land for sale. Now, why would you go against what the commission said the committee said for the library committee and said this is whether we want the new library or the second library, and then go ahead and sell that land, then have to go buy some land someplace else again. So I hope you take that land off sale and take that sign down so that that's where our library should be then, if that's what they recommend. And at the time we do have a second library. But again, Kay, thanks you for all the work you've done, and we really appreciate that.
Still open for public requests to be heard if there are others. See none, I'll close the public request to be heard. Item 14, adjourn. Oh, welcome.
A little slow, sorry. Gary Mixon, 3826 Giles Road. I will make it very brief. Thank you, Kay, for all of your hard work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just happened to see the Bellevue leader, so I thought I had to come down and just say thank you very much. All the citizens of Bellevue are very thankful for your service, and I am as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll let you go ahead now, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 14, adjournment. Mr. Preister, Kay, you ready to write the last few minutes?
I am.
Okay, Mr.
I'm
Preister.
just sure you're all going to vote against adjournment.
Yes, Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Sanyuk. Any discussion on this? See none, please vote.
That was an honor of you.
The vote is 4-1, but motion carries.
Our next meeting will be Monday, October 13. Again, enjoy the last day of summer, and we welcome in fall tomorrow. Thank you.